The Effect of Brexit on Immigration, Part 7. Since I finished my series on immigration, as often happens, some big developments occurred in the story. Firstly, there was an intervention by Starmer, which is set to change the points-based system noticeably. Secondly, the ONS released data for 2024, which shows net immigration dropped to 431,000 in January to December 2024. This is almost half the number recorded for the same period in 2023, which was 860,000. In 2022, the figure was 872,000. This reduction is a good sign, although the number is still way too high. The changes made by Sunak seem to have had an effect, so it bodes well for the new measures Starmer has proposed, which we will look at shortly. Starmer was like a greyhound out the trap to respond to the reform walloping of both main parties on May the 1st. All of a sudden, something snapped in him, and he was trying to out-Farage. Some say he was even giving Nick Griffin a run for his money. Others claim it was a result of him having a train ride with Macron and Merz. I couldn't possibly comment. Starmer had previewed this kind of based mood music in the autumn, making the speech where he first said the Conservatives had enacted an experiment in open borders. He didn't push this anymore, except in opportunistic remarks and when boasting how many illegal immigrants he'd been returning. Not enough. It especially didn't feature in the run-up to the elections. It's likely he was too scared of offending his liberal left and migrant supporter base, but afterwards he had nothing to lose. The reform shellacking was also so severe it called for more desperate measures. It is important to point out that although this is a departure for Starmer, going further than a modern Labour leader has ever gone in criticising mass immigration, it does not mean he is telling the truth or he will deliver. Starmer was framing it within a liberal left paradigm. I like diversity, but... The much-quoted line, "an island of strangers," was not directly saying an island of strangers is what immigration has caused. It was talking about people following common rules, both immigration rules and fairness in employment practice, i.e. not hiring imported cheap labour. In other words, if we don't follow these rules, we have no common identity or community. It's possible that Starmer, or rather his speechwriter, was trying to use an Enoch Powell line, but in an acceptable context, so it could be denied. Thus the vibe was given, even if the forbidden thing wasn't actually said. Indeed, the Powell quote it was supposedly aping, from the infamous 1968 Rivers of Blood speech, no less, is totally different. Firstly, Powell said strangers in our own country, not an island of strangers. Secondly, Powell was talking about the effects of mass immigration and the implications of the recently enacted Race Relations Act, 1965. In high immigration areas, he was saying, British people had become strangers in their own land. The Race Relations Act was worsening this, in his view, by causing reverse discrimination against the natives and curbing their freedom of expression. The content and apparent purpose of Starmer's speech was nothing like this. The strangers line, if it was a conscious nod, could have been psychological garnish. It might have been an unconscious nod, of course, betraying conservative views within a liberal's mind. My gut feeling, though, is unless the speechwriter, or whoever suggested the line, was over 40 or especially well read, they were not deliberately emulating Powell. I could be wrong, of course. Where psychological garnish is concerned, you could say the same about a sentence right at the beginning of Starmer's speech. This strategy will finally take back control of our borders and close the book on a squalid chapter. Now, Starmer will say he is talking about the abuse of the immigration system and the toxicity of the migration debate. However, what the average voter's brain is likely to absorb is that mass immigration and its effect on the country is squalid. In some respects, they'd be correct. Once again, Starmer is able to say it without saying it. The man is a lawyer after all. He always leaves himself an off-ramp.